and welcome back to another day in the arena. It's me, it's CGB, and today in the arena we are going to try out my best of one Grixis control list. So, Grixis control picked up so many new weapons. Figuring out where they fall and how to make it all work and play together is probably the biggest thing going on, the thing that we most want to get to. So, like, what do you put and where? There's so many neat new tools for Grixis control right now these days. And this is where I'm at right now. Today, just to let you know, we're going to be playing a constructed event as opposed to mythic ranked. I am trying to make the top 1,000 so that I can play in a mythic championship qualifier tournament later. And I don't want to play with a deck I'm not 100% confident in. And I'm not 100% with this deck yet. I'm going to be really honest with you. I also don't want to mislead anybody out there that every time I put out a deck list means I think it is perfect. This is definitely not something I've been able to play enough games with yet to be sure. But I like the way it's coming along. I particularly like God Eternal Kefnet, and I like it in a shell with a lot of spells along with Augur Bolus, which is why you don't see things like Search for Iskanta and other cards that are non-sorcery or instant, such as the other Nicol Bolas. I also don't think this is really like a 4 of. I've been trimming it back. It's still a very good card at very certain points, but I think it's a little bit, I think if you're just spamming 4 of them, 1, you're messing up your curve, and 2, it's not that great in multiples, to be totally honest. It can sit on the battlefield for some time without necessarily winning the game. You do get pretty far ahead quickly, but the opponent is exiling extra lands and just waiting to draw something to deal with it. You're not that happy. Anyway, Enter the God Eternals, on the other hand, is a curve filler that you want so often because of the amount of aggro in the format. This card absolutely wrecks that kind of approach, and you still need to deal with the things that Grixis can't deal with. One of the long-time problems with Grixis is it cannot deal with enchantments very well. It cannot deal with lands very well, such as a flipped Iskanta or flipped Adanto, the first fort. I've got some Blink of an Eyes in there to try to help with some of the issues. Experimental Frenzy is another card that's extremely hard to beat. And sometimes we can team up a Blink of an Eye with a Thought Erasure, fix some problems that way. But for the most part, that's still a serious weakness of the deck, and I'm not quite sure if we can get Grixis control to top tier. But I'm on that mission, and you can come along with me as I try out this deck. Other things, we're doing the Augur Bolus package, much like the Teferi deck. Very fun card. Really happy with it, and in combination with Cry of the Canarium, it can really shore up the matchup against aggro better than it's been in some time. Add in Enter the God Eternals, and you've got a recipe for some serious blowing out of the aggro decks. And commence the endgame. This is a pretty fun win con. Feels a lot like a Torrential Gearhulk type effect where you draw 2 cards, and then you make a big old creature if you had a number of cards in your hand. I also have Chemistry's Insight there to support it, so we're more likely to have a fuller hand so that our creature is not just a baby. And the can't be countered part is a pretty big part of the card, giving that can't be countered dimension to this deck. All right, let's go play some games, see how we do. Our first matchup, the red is the splash color, so having one source of red is always pretty much where you want to be. So this hand is pretty darn good. Augur, Rampage, Kefnet, we've got plays for several turns. After taking the first turn off, being on the draw is always hard. But it looks like the opponent's not jumping all over us just yet. I guess since the red, like, we do want to be able to play the Rampage next turn if we want to, so we'll put the Steam Vents down first. Well, we'd like to be able to play it without paying life is what I mean. And the opponent shows us a Gruul, Guildgate, and a Mountain. So perhaps a Gruul mid-range on a slow start. That hold up implies Lightning Strike or Shock. And the Augur of Bolus whiff. It's become my new tradition. It's just how I like to start videos. But we still get a 1-for-1 exchange. The opponent Lightning Strikes away the Augur. So it's like it was a 2-mana, make the opponent discard a card 1-3. Which would also be really good. Spellbreaker. Does it hasty? Does it attack, my precious? It does. Well, it's too big for a Cry of the Canarium. Let's go ahead and use the Rampage to get it out of the way right away. Be careful selecting. I often select wrong, it seems. Just one of my traditions with new cards to play them as badly as possible for a week or two. Now, is it a Rekindling Phoenix? It's a Chain Whirler. I was pretty afraid of a Phoenix. Let's go ahead and play out God Eternal Kefnet and put a nice big 4/5 in the way. Now, I don't really want to block with the Kefnet if my opponent attacks, because if they do tag team it with a removal spell, that's really bad for me. I can't play the Augur Bolus the turn following, or I'll put the Kefnet on the bottom of my library. Ooh. The opponent with a Daredevil right on time to make me put the Kefnet back in the deck. And again, stranding the Augur is pretty bad. And this is one of those things where maybe you're not supposed to play the God Eternal with the Augur. But we are going to take the action, put it back in the deck. It's a really good card against this deck because it can match up against Phoenix, it can block most things, and that's a huge draw. Now, once again, we don't want to mill ourselves. We wouldn't anyway because our opponent has Direfleet Daredevil. Often we do because of Chemister's Insight, but we don't want to mill our God Eternal Kefnet. So, enter the God Eternals. This is my target. This is my player who's going to mill 4. We'll gain 4 life and make a 4/4. Oh my gosh, we milled some gas from them too, which is just getting lucky. Nothing to dance in the streets about, but it is still pretty sweet. We'll have a decision to make if our opponent attacks, such as whether or not to take that block and let the opponent use another burn spell to kill off our 4/4. I think I will take it for the time being, since if we draw a land, commence the endgame makes this even bigger. Usually not a lot of spectacle in these decks. Our opponent had a Lava Coil, but the fact that they attacked first implies they also have a shock, which will be something to keep an eye on. Wow. So we could play this. I still don't want to Augur this to the bottom. I could simply cry away my opponent's creature and save this for something bigger and stronger. Since our opponent runs Spellbreakers and Growth Chamber Guardians and Chain Whirlers and probably Skargan Hellkites, it feels like this could hit something better. So let's just Cry the Canarium, which isn't going to have too many good hits in this deck. The Growth Chamber Guardians are basically going to adapt in response or right away. So I think running a Cry there, it's okay. It's not the greatest, but it's okay. Here's the chain. And remember, we should be thinking our opponent still has a shock. So if we play God Eternal Kefnet and block with it, we end up back in the bind that we've been in for a few turns. I think what I want to do mostly is play the Augur Bolus. See if I can get my opponent to commit. We could drop another God Eternals upon them though. It would be pretty vicious. There are a few better things out there to God Eternal, but maybe Augur could find a solution to that too. So yeah, we're just going to straight up God Eternal, and I still don't want to mill myself because of the Daredevil, but right now the Daredevil has interesting targets as it is. Yeah, I'm still going to mill my opponent though, rather than try to hit a Chemister's Insight and give their Daredevil even better looks. The opponent will Lightning Strike their own Chain Whirler. This will prevent the life gain. It shouldn't prevent the rest of the spell. There we go. So, there are now 3 Guardians in the graveyard, which makes their Guardian much worse off, and we pick up the victory. You saw Enter the God Eternals just being a beast there. Love the hand. Definitely a keep for me. Red being the splash color means we can wait for it. And having the God Eternal to go to is always nice. Gruul again. 2 for 2 on Gruul. I'm a little surprised. So, we could run out an Augur and try to find the right spells. I like getting the Thought Erasure here. Just make sure the opponent doesn't curve out as perfectly. They have a Krull Harpooner they can play next turn. They have 2 Lightning Strikes and a Shock. They have a Chain Whirler, which they might not be able to play. They have to draw the red source. I think I take this away and keep the opponent from getting too far ahead of me on the board. And this land can go to the graveyard. I've got enough of them. That Chain Whirler will be a pain. I'm going to have to find an answer for it. I'm really hoping the opponent just misses here, and they do. They go straight to a Lightning Strike. Cry the Canarium off the top. Well, not the best. It could have solved the Harpooner, Let's play the Augur and see if we can hit a card with it. Hey, we did. And Enter the God Eternals is a really freaking good card. So is Vraska's Contempt, but I already have a God Eternal Kefnet to play next turn. So we're going to grab the God Eternals, which basically neutralizes these lightning strikes and the opponent's creatures very quickly. Here's Goblin Chain Whirler. Since I like blocking with my Augur Bolus just while I can. It's basically like gaining 3 life with it. It's not going to do much else in the matchup, I don't believe. Alright, Kefnet, come on down. Let's get in the way. If we 2 for 1, if the opponent, like, say, plays both their burn spells to get through it, that's frustrating, but okay. We'll draw it again soon. Take the action to put the God Eternal back in the deck. Here comes the pain. And the opponent knows about Enter the God Eternals, so they are about to feel even more pain. Let's take out the first striker. Let's mill the opponent, because we don't want to mill our Kefnet like last game. 4 life and a 4/4. Such a house. Rekindling Phoenix joins the party. It's unfortunate that we put a Contempt on the bottom. And there is a Chemister's Insight. So I think the Chemister's Insight has to be the play here, unless the opponent blocks my 4/4 with the Cry. And then I can cry it away. But I don't think my opponent would do that. I think if I attack, the opponent will be very happy. So here, I'm taking the Phoenix, drawing the cards, and then playing the God Eternal to get in the way. Oh no. Well, I guess that resolves. Opponent with double birdie. That's very scary. Maybe we can draw a second Cry of the Canarium. Down to 7. Let's draw with the Chemister's Insight. Sinister Sabotage a little bit late, but at least we have it to pair with the God Eternal now. But we're going to have to solve this problem fast. We can cry away one of the opponent's Rekindling Phoenix after this attack. Oh, okay. So they must have a Collision Colossus or a Lightning Strike, which the Sinister Sabotage is going to catch. We've got a chance here. Also, if we can get a spell on top with Sabotage, Kefnet can cast it. Okay, yep, we can't let that happen because it would take out our creatures. And there is a spell on top. That is wonderful. The opponent will sacrifice the other Rekindling Phoenix, and then we will cry them away. So reveal the Angrass Rampage, play the Angrass Rampage, target player sacrifices a creature. We're still at 3. A Lightning Strike is game over. So I'm going to... How many creatures should I attack with? Our opponent can draw cards like Skargan Hellkite. They have 5 mana for that. They can also draw Zertog Goblin. Zertog Goblin wouldn't be lethal. But I think we should be playing against damage, so I don't know if attacking here is the right play. I guess we're also playing an Augur Bolus, so we'll have a ground blocker for a Zertog Goblin, but we would lose to a Skargan Hellkite off the top. So let's attack with the 4/4. Try to get the clock going. Here is Cry of the Canarium. Exiles the Phoenixes, the Phenai, and takes out the token. And we need to find the right card, basically. Another Sinister Sabotage would be clutch. There it is. Our opponent has 1 turn. They have 1 turn to get this right, or we pull away with this game. And it's a Growth Chamber Guardian. That's not bad, but I don't know if it will be enough. They fetch another Guardian. That's what's in hand. We decline to reveal the Watery Grave. If you haven't played with this card, it asks you to reveal every time so that you're not giving away to your opponent what you drew. So we could Rampage this down and get a big attack in, have Sinister Sabotage. Yeah, I think that's the play. Target player sacrifices a creature. And the opponent's going to scoop it up. We attack this turn. They play Growth Chamber Guardian. We probably let that resolve next turn, but then counter if there's anything else. If they do nothing, we draw with Chemist's Insight, and an attack or two should finish the game from there. Well, we're at risk of not drawing enough land, but I still think we keep it on the draw. We run 26. In theory, we should get there. On the draw, this hand is potentially really slow, too. I mean, in before I put, like, 3 lands on the bottom with Augur or Bolus, right? That's just the way it always goes. Tecatli. How rude. Well, that shuts down Augur or Bolus, so I have to fire off this Rampage basically right away. And just shut that down. None of that, please. I have an Augur or Bolus I wanted to use. But this might be a Boros Angel deck. Yep, there's Resplendo. Alright, let's put Sinister Sabotage mana up. If the opponent refuses to play into it, I might blink of an eye the Resplendent Angel without drawing a card. Although I'm at a little bit of risk here. That if I'm just not drawing the card with the blink of an eye, I'm going to get outcarded. I guess it's 4-4. Second Resplendent Angel, Sinister Sabotage. It is unfortunate our sweeper, Cry of the Canarium, is looking really bad right now. I think I should just keep this. We're trying to get to commence the end game. We need our lands. So we'll pay 2 life and have Blink of an Eye available. I like the Blink of an Eye here because it looks like a Chemist's Insight when we make sure we have 4 mana open. I'll go ahead and take the damage. I might want to blink something else. The opponent goes for Lyra. If they just pass, we blink on end step, buys us another turn. It's a pretty good punish for the opponent not playing into a counter or something else, and now we have the Chemist's Insight. I think I'll just play... yeah, let's play the Blood Crypt tapped and plan 2 Chemist's this turn, setting up commence the end game potentially. And we'll see how the opponent handles this. Pass. Pass. They don't want to run out the Angel, so they're low on creatures and high on removal here. They think I have another counter spell, but I don't. Now I do. Gosh, that is going insanely well. So now we pass and prepare to commence the end game. Once we make a big creature and draw more cards, the opponent's days of just passing the turn back and forth have to be over. They might have a way to deal with this at instant speed, like a Justice Strike. What does that tell you? Still, I can't let the opponent get too far with this card. Let's sabotage it. I think then we're going to see an Aurelia, or possibly another Resplendent. But the opponent's done sitting back, so we have to battle them. We have to start fighting. I wish they had sat back longer. And it is an Aurelia. I'm honestly more scared of the Resplendent Angel at this stage of the game because it can spiral out of control, whereas Resplendo, I can let Aurelia hang out for a minute. But let's see if we can find a removal spell using the Augur. Maybe I should Thought Erase first. Well, Enter the God Eternals is not good against Aurelia. So that's one of those cards that if I found it, wouldn't really be the right play. And that's cost 5. Another card that would be good is Vraska's Contempt. And Blink of an Eye with Kicker. So I will lead with the Augur. That is a good one. So now we can definitely fire off Thought Erasure, make sure the opponent does not have a backup threat. The opponent might Ixalan's Bind or Augur Bolus, which is a good reason to play another one this turn. They could also play another creature, which would be really unfortunate since we kept the Angrath's Rampage. Tough choice. Are they more likely to... like, if they draw another creature, how far behind am I? I guess it depends what this Augur finds. So because I think they're going to bind the Augur, I'm going to play another one now. God, I wish I had one more mana. Oh, what a whiff. What a nasty whiff. Okay. Ouch. Oopsie daisy. So let's see how hard I get punished. Sometimes you gotta make a play. Whether it's right or wrong is hard to say. And does the opponent keep holding Ixalan's Binding? Now that we put a Bolus and a Kefnet on the bottom, I feel like they should. Alright, well, I'm going to attack and see if the opponent will let me use Enter the God Eternals here. Because that would be sick. Ooh. I think our opponent has not become used to Enter the God Eternals just yet. Well, we'll see. Maybe they've got a trick for us. So do they run Direfleet Daredevil? They might. We already have one Chemister's Insight in our graveyard. There's only one other to hit, so I'm going to mill my opponent, not me. If there were 2 Insights in the deck, I'd probably mill myself, hoping to hit them. Have more resources. Unbreakable Formation, no! That's unfortunate, but we still gain the life and the creature. And now I'll make my opponent sacrifice their creature. This is PewDiePie.deck, perhaps? Oh, there's a Dawn of Hope in there, though. That's not PewDiePie.deck. PewDiePie with Unbreakable Formations, Legion's Landings in the Angel package. A little different take. Alright, there's that card. It's scary. It can take over games. The opponent's still unwilling to use that binding. Oh, what a draw! Same plan. Legion War Boss to the yard. Interesting. Boom. 8/8. Rekindling Phoenix off the top. Interesting. We get to Cry of Canarium that away after it blocks the 8/8, which it has to do or the opponent dies. The opponent could have instead bound this, and then the Cry wouldn't be effective against the Phoenix. We could have also drawn any removal spell, and I guess we don't win the game necessarily. Alright, so Phoenix goes to the graveyard. Now we play Cry. Takes out the token and exiles the Phoenix because of weird wording on Cry of the Canarium. And let's end the turn. We have not had to commence the end game, which is kind of crazy. Here's the binding, but binding won't stop us from amassing again. It only stops you from playing cards of the same name. Amassing is different, so we'll still get an amass creature when we commence. I do not want to discard one of these for Chemister's Insight. No thank you. I'm sure I'll draw a card to discard soon. Thought Erasure might be that card. Whatever our opponent's last card is, it's hard to say if it's any good. But I think the right play here isn't to play the Thought Erasure, but to commence the end game. And keep the opponent under a lot of pressure, now that they are firmly behind in life total. Here comes Tecatli. No problem. Does not affect whether or not we get an amass creature. Or at least it shouldn't if I understand my rules. I learn things sometimes. But I believe the amass creature just enters the battlefield with the +1/+1 counters. It's not an enters the battlefield effect. And there you go. So I think at this stage we can Nicol Bolas Dragon God kill this win. But let's Thought Erasure first and check if the coast is clear. Okay then. And on top. So we can't kill the Tecatli now. It can block and absorb the 4/4. And it can only attack back for 1. So I think it's still a good idea to Bolas. Let's get the 2 damage in. Then we'll Bolas. It's interesting that Tecatli has a role against control decks now because of Augur of Bolas. It's not completely doing nothing over here.
I'm a god once again.
So we'll find a land. Our opponent has to exile a permanent. I think I'd exile the binding.
You have no weakness I cannot exploit.
Since binding has nothing underneath it. And our opponent top decks a sad land. And Bolas can kill Tecatli, therefore opponent is dead to the swing. I hope you enjoyed this look at the Grixis control list. I still think there's a lot of tuning and tweaking to be done, so by all means, tell me about the cards I should be playing. For example, a card I had trouble finding room for is Liliana Dreadhorde General, but the card is so powerful, it feels like it should be there. Also, should it just be blue-black control? It does Bolas and the Angrath's Rampage and the Bedevil, do those add enough to the deck to justify it? Or should we be just blue-black? Good things to think about as we continue to test the deck. I have to go now and leave it at 3-0. I have a lot of videos to make today. Thank you very much for watching this video, and as always, I will see you in the next video. Goodbye. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, or leave a comment. You can also support the channel on Patreon for special perks. Links are in the description. Our sponsors are HauntedFlower.com and FlipsideGaming.com. Haunted Flower sells officially licensed MTG apparel and accessories, and Flipside Gaming sells MTG cards and supplies. You can save 10% on either site with the promo code CGB, and it supports the channel at the same time. See you next time for another day in the arena. For now, it's me, it's CGB, signing out.